Hey guys, welcome back. So in this tutorial, we'll be walking towards making a service. So this is the services folder, and let's create a post service because our main aspect of our app is a post model, a post schema, and a post directive, a post controller, and now a post service, which will basically fetch posts, delete posts, update posts, create posts. All right, so let's name it posts. Too many posts. I'm just getting tired of saying posts all the time. The posts.service.js and a spec file. Our spec files are empty right now. In the next tutorial, in the upcoming tutorials, we'll be filling up our spec files, which are our test files. Spec.js. All right, so in the file, the structure will also be the same as our controller structures are. So how are the structures? Like this. I don't want to be repetitive and keep on writing and wasting time. So yeah. All right, so instead of this, we'll have a service. Sorry. Instead of this, we'll have service, and this will be called post service. And this is the post service function. This is the function, and that's the name. This is the name, and this is the function. The one in the quotation is the name. So post function. Here we'll be writing our posts. Again, here we can have var vm or self. I will write self in this case because according to the style guide in the services, it's better if you write self. All right, so let's bring the post. So let's write the first call, which is the get call. So get posts. All right, so in the get post function, first before writing the get post function, we'll be writing a response decorator. This response decorator will basically decorate our response, and it will help us to not write repetitive code and instead write one line code each time. So let's since this is a helper function, we'll be writing underscore in the beginning. Response decorator helper function, in node also you can see in like you give an underscore in the beginning to signify that it's a private function. It will not be ever used outside this file. All right, so what we'll be doing is the response decorator will take in method, the HTTP method, the HTTP URL, the data if there is any, and the headers. All right, so we'll be returning. Okay, so first of all, we are using the HTTP, not instead of resource, we'll be using a simple HTTP module. So we need to inject the HTTP module, and all right, so we'll come to that later. So we'll be injecting the HTTP module. Now let's return this promise, this HTTP promise, that our method is the method that will be provided as a parameter. The URL is the URL provided. The data is the data provided, and the headers is the headers provided from our parameters. And then we'll have a promise that after you have all these parameters and everything, we'll dot then, let me just zoom out a bit, dot then function, and then response. Yeah, so a response, and then we'll just be returning the response.data. Okay, and as a callback function, if we run into some error, then we just console log the error, but we'll be using log.debug. It's a dependency module you could just use for debugging codes instead of writing console, because our ESLint is configured in a way that will be only accepting log.debug. So we'll be just debugging the error. So before that can be used, we need to inject the log module. All right, so the basic reason, like I said, for the response decorator is so that we don't have to write repetitive code. So we return response decorator and we just inject whatever method that you want to use. So for example, for get post, we'll use get. URL will be http localhost 808 http You know what? The best thing would be to use our constant URL. Remember, we had a constants file, so we also declared our URL here, API URL. We could basically use that, right? So the API URL is already declared. All we need to do is we need to inject the config, because that's the name we gave to a constants file. You could also name it constant. I'll just wrote it configuration. So config. So that's why you inject config here, and then config.api URL. But that's not it. API localhost 8080 slash API slash post. So we need to append posts. And then do we have a data? No, because it's a get call. So null. No headers either. So null. So yeah, that's how the get posts will look like. Now let's let's give it a try and see if it works. How will we see that? We will be writing our function over here. So right now the posts vm.posts is empty. This dot posts is empty, is an empty array. But let's fill it out right now. Finally. So what we'll be doing is we need to first inject our post service that we have written. Post service, that's the name we gave, right? Post service. Let's check it out. Sorry. What's the name? Sorry, yeah. Here, this is the name. So post service, let's copy it, paste it. Let's just making sure. Okay, it's this correct name. So post service dot get post. That's the method that we'll be using. Get post dot then function data. So what we'll be doing is we'll be putting all our data that we get inside the posts array. So that's, yeah, the array will have all our posts, and then dot catch, like in case we run into some errors, we'll have a callback function error, and we'll just log it. Log.debug error. And we have to inject log. So yeah, if you're wondering how I'm writing all the syntax, just look into the Angular documentation and you'll find out why everything is written a certain way. So if you just search services, Angular services, you'll see how the syntax goes. So the script.js, well, a bit of finding is in order. So W3 schools is my best pal. W3 schools, HD dollar, HTTP, Angular. And you'll see how the syntax is from this. It's quite easy, quite straightforward. See, http.get. There's so many ways of writing it down. There are like lots of ways. See, all this repetitive code, we avoided it simply by writing the response decorator. Okay, enough talk. Now let's see if our data is being shown. So the first step that we'd have to do is repeat this card. This card has to be repeated like a loop. So what we do is this div is the one that we want to repeat. The row is basically just the row that's basically holding all the cards, but this card is what we want to repeat. So we want to write ng repeat post in post.post. Okay, that was a really bad choice of name. So this post is the controller name. So the controller, this posts, controller as. This is the name that we wrote in the first, that's the first thing. And the second one is basically this, vm.post. So vm is replaced by posts, and this post is posts. Okay, too many posts. I think my lips are getting dry by saying all that. Okay, so we have post, and depending on what we wrote in our RoboMongo, however the name is post.title. So here we'll, instead of this, we'll have post.title. This double braces is the AngularJS expression, and this text will be post.body maybe. Let's see, post.author. Oh, sorry, we forgot post.author as well. So h5 post dot author, and then we also want to maybe show the time. So post dot created at, let's zoom in a bit. Yeah, post dot created at. All right, so and the text will be post dot body, and here instead of this we'll have read more, and yeah, so let's see how this looks if this is being rendered properly. Oops, we've run into some problems. So the problem was that every time you create a new file or new folder, I forgot to mention this. Every time you create that, you have to always run gulp serve again, because what, like I said, the gulp task, what it does is it injects everything to your index.html file. So if you have a new service, a new post service, or a new directive or a new controller, every time you have new files introduced in your app, you have to run the gulp task again. Okay, so as you can see, this looks horribly ugly. Now we'll beautify this. As you can see, this date is kind of weird. The body is too big. Now to remedy this, what we can do is we could use Angular filters. Now there are some built-in filters that we can use. So for example, the date filter, we could use the limit to filter. This basically limits your post. So Angular filters. You can look into some basic ones. They're uppercase, they're lowercase. These are built-in ones. These are quite good. And for the body, we'll be using the limit to filter. So let's use the limit filter. So the way to use filters is you have this syntax, and then you want to limit to maybe 140 characters, like Twitter. So voila, it's so much prettier now. And you could maybe write a dot dot dot, and now you want to give a filter for the date. So I want to give the default date filter, which is the medium. This is a pretty date filter. You don't need to specify the date, month, year format. I just like this format. This is good enough. So yeah, this looks good, right? So this looks good enough for our post. So now you're finally able to render your data from your backend to your front end. If you have been running into errors while running this, do give a comment in the comment section below, and I'll try to respond. And always check if you have this extension open, because that may be one of the problems. And maybe you didn't pull my repo properly, because those configurations are important for this app to run. All right, so in the next tutorial, we'll be writing separate pages for these posts, and then yeah, so that'll be one. And then we also have the publish page where where you're able to actually publish your post. So yeah, stay tuned and give a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time.